Find out how to build custom and functional multi-storey car parks in Cities Skylines 2. In today's short tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create your own custom and fully functional multi-storey car parks and parking garages in Cities Skylines 2. Now this does require a bit of time to complete, but the results and flexibility are fantastic, so I would highly recommend you trying these out in your city. And stick around till the end of the video for some bonus footage and detailing tips from my Los Angeles series, and you can see how I effectively use them throughout my city, which will hopefully get you ready to start using them in yours. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and let me know what you think down in the comments below. So in order to do this, we will need some mods, mainly Anarchy, Road Builder, Move It, and Better Bulldozer. I have also created some custom Road Builder roads just for these parking lots. There are 15 networks for both angled parking and perpendicular parking. Now, unfortunately, Road Builder roads, they're not easy to share. There is, of course, the Road Builder discovery page, and you would need to add each of these 30 networks one at a time. So instead, I have made these available to download on PDX mods. So download my parking lot roads pack. This is technically a save file. So if you just open the saved game, you'll see this notification. So reload the save as it says, and then just save the game locally. And you'll now have my networks saved on your computer. Then just exit and open your own city, and the networks should all appear. So these are all of the networks I've supplied. There are versions for both angled and perpendicular parking, so you can choose whichever one you prefer. Each network has been created for a specific reason. There's one-way and two-way networks, some with parking on one side or both sides, some with curbs just on one side, some without parking but with the curbs, so a whole bunch of different variety of networks. So you can find the networks simply in Find It by searching for parking lot under the roads tab, and you can narrow down even further by searching for perpendicular or angled parking lot, and that will get you access to all of the networks you will need. Now the first thing we need to do is create the different levels of the parking structure. They will all follow the same layout. So the first network I will use is the perpendicular parking lot one way. This is the network without the curbs. You can draw them however you like in any layout you like, but I'll simply just have one network going in one direction and then 3 networks in the opposite direction to the first. And once done, change the tool to the road upgrade tool and turn off all snapping options. So with the snapping options turned off, you can see we're now free to shift the networks around freely side to side, and I can line them all up perfectly. So I'm now going to repeat that process for the elevated levels. So I'll change the elevation now to 5 meters, and also using Anarchy under the general UI, you can force the network to be an elevated network by clicking on this icon. And I'll repeat it for the 3rd level, this time at 10 meters. Of course, if you want 4 levels or even more, you just continue this on at 5 meter increments. Again, I'll use the upgrade tool with the snapping options turned off and shuffle the networks over just like before. It does help to get quite close just to see it a bit more clearly, but you can see I'm trying to line up the fence which comes in between the networks so they're perfectly on top of each other. So I'm going to switch now to the perpendicular parking lot with a curb on the left. I actually want to replace the outer 2 networks to have a curb on the outside edge. This isn't necessarily a requirement, but I do think it looks better and it will give the pedestrians somewhere safe to walk. The next network we will need is the perpendicular parking lot, one-way curb left. So this is just the one-way network with the curb, but without parking spaces. On the far side of the parking lot, I'll now connect up the 4 networks for each level with this one-way road. You'll see again the curb is on the outside. Now, the elevated roads do have pillars appearing below them. We can ignore these just for a moment, we will remove them shortly. So on the closest side, this is where I'm going to have the ramps which come up and down connecting each of the different levels. So a one-way network just isn't going to work here, as cards will need access from both directions. So instead now I'll use the perpendicular parking lot two-way curb left. So just make sure you're starting on the right hand side, drawing the network to the left. This way the curb will be on the outside of the structure. Now before we move on, I'm just going to remove all of these pillars as they're starting to get in the way a little. And I'll do this via the Better Bulldozer mod and its sub-element remover feature. You can see I have this selected in the bottom left. This will allow me to remove all of the pillars. There are also these pedestrian crossing markings, which I think are a bit messy also, so I'll just use the road upgrades and select the pedestrian crossing option, and then I can right click on each one to remove. Okay, so our 3 levels are all looking a bit tidier now, so we're definitely getting there, and now we just need to connect them all up to each other with ramps. But before I do that, I just need to create some side roads coming off each level, and I'll do this on the side closest to us using the 2-lane road. This time I'm using the 2-way network without the curb, and I'll draw out networks which are about 24 meters long. Now I wouldn't go shorter than 24 meters just for my own testing. It can kind of get tricky just to select the nodes, and then we can always make them a bit closer later using Move It. You can see some more pillars and pedestrian crossings have appeared from these new nodes we've created, so I'm just going to go through and remove all of these like before. You can also have a quick look underneath each of the levels just to see if you've missed any. So we're now ready to stack these levels all on top of each other, and we'll be using Move It to do this. So using the marquee tool, I'll select all of the nodes on the second level, and then I'll just simply drag it and place it over the top. It can be a little tricky to line it up perfectly, although I wouldn't worry too much, if it's not quite spot on. The most important thing is to line up these networks which are coming off for the ramps. You can line them up quite close together. Now let's repeat that for the 3rd level. You can see I'm dragging it from the node in the bottom left, so I can position it slightly easier this time in line with the previous one. So all we need to do now is connect them up together with the ramps. So the top level doesn't actually need a road on either side, it will only have one connection to the level below. So I'm just going to delete one and we'll use the other. To add in the ramps, again I'm going to use the 2-way network without the curbs. And I want to start from the bottom levels and work upwards. So I'll make sure the elevation is set to 0, starting from the bottom, and then draw it out to the other side and switch to 5 meters elevation, and you'll see it connects easily. And we'll just repeat this process, now going from the 5 meters on the right to the 10 meters on the left. You could just ignore this kind of messed up node thing here. I think that's just like a mod issue at the moment following the latest patch. If I do select a node and move it, slightly move the node and then hit undo, you'll see it will go back to normal. But hopefully if you're watching this video in future, that's not going to be an issue. So that's the main structure done now. Hopefully not too tricky to implement. We can just tidy up a few bits now and add in any detailing we want. So as the ramps were created 24 meters away from the structure, you may now just want to use Move It and move them a bit closer to the structure now. I think it just looks a bit better, just a bit more connected and not so far away. The road at the bottom will connect up to your city's main road networks, so just connect this up however you want in the position you're going to place it. And you'll see it looks pretty good. Each of the levels, they have plenty of height for the cars. Of course, it's all fully functional and it looks great. So let's just add in a few more details to finish this off. If you're using the extra assets importer mod and you have my stains and damage decal pack, these are a great one just to add onto the roads. Now you probably also want some sort of pillars or supports for the structure. As each level is just floating at the moment, there are of course many assets you can use for the supports. One asset which I really like is the Modern Architecture's Firehouse's upgrade, the Watchtower. This is accessible as a non-functional prop through StarCube's static ploppable packs. And you can see I'll just place one pretty much in all four corners. Here I imagine this is also where there would be elevators and staircases to access each level. And that looks pretty good, I think. It feels super unique and far more interesting than like the vanilla parking garages. And seeing as I am subscribed to the Japanese regional pack, another asset which I found works really well for multi-storey car parks is the school fence. It's super large, really interesting green colour, and this netting, it looks pretty cool. So let's place some of these on the outside of the structure. It's like the netting will provide shade for the cars and the structure. But of course, like I said, there's just so many potential assets you can use for the structure. There are some more generic standard pillars you could use. So there it is, the final parking lot. Hopefully that's been a fairly easy tutorial to follow and you understand exactly how it can be made. The possibilities are endless and there's so much you can do with this. I'll do another example now of how I implemented this effectively myself in my city. So there's a location here next to an elevated train station. At the moment, it's just a mess. I'm just using invisible paths to connect the station for my citizens. But I think it's time to connect it all up properly. Alongside what I'm thinking will be like a shopping mall of sorts and of course a custom multi-storey car park. Now I'm going to show this all much faster and you can see how it all comes together in a real city example. And I'm going to go for a slightly more complex layout for the road, just trying to do something a little differently and have the ramps in a slightly different location too, just to show you that you can really create these however you want. And we're going to match up the upper two levels using the bottom layer as a guide. And I basically just repeated the same steps and processes which I showed in the main tutorial, and then connecting them all together with the ramps. Once all connected, I can select them all, remove it and put it back in the right position. So let's remove these invisible paths and we'll connect the parking lot to my train station and do it all properly this time. And I'm going to provide the access directly to this path from the upper level of my parking lot. I'll just need to use an invisible pedestrian path and I can make a connection between the path and the upper level of the parking lot. On the other side, I'll connect the path to the ground. So now it's fully accessible from both sides. Now you may be wondering, how do citizens use all of the levels of the parking lot? So essentially citizens they'll always pick the shortest route to their destination. So if you only have access via the bottom floor, vehicles will mainly only park on the bottom floor. So if we want vehicles parking on the upper floor, then we need to make sure there's access from the top floor using invisible paths. Now this is also why I chose the elevated train station. This will essentially mean that the best and shortest route for the citizens will be from the upper level, so they're far more likely to park their vehicles on the upper floor. But of course the car park is still pretty empty, and it's because I need to fill up this area with far more residential, commercial, offices, to help attract a lot more citizens. Another thing you can do to fill up your parking lots is to ban parking on nearby streets by upgrading the road networks to have wider sidewalks. I've let the simulation play for quite a while now too, and we have the fully completed multi-storey car park in my city. You can see all 3 levels are being used by cars now. Like I said before, they are so unique and also so flexible. There's so much stuff you can do with them. So I hope you enjoyed today's video and short tutorial on how to create custom multi-storey car parks. And I look forward to seeing how others will implement these into their cities too. And of course, please drop me a like and comment if you found this video useful and entertaining. And I'll catch you all again soon with the next video.